Well, welcome back, folks. It's Rod and Valette here again, and we're on our way up the Unadata track. We're going to be stopping in and taking a few photos of Lake Ayr South, and then we'll make our way up to Coward Springs for an overnight stop, up into William Creek for a bit of a flight over Ayers, Lake Ayr, and then we'll make our way following the Old Garn Railway up into Unadata. And we hopefully can see the footy up there. We're going to start our journey off in Maree. Interesting little town. And when you get in there, you'll have to have a look up Tom Cruise. He drove the old mail truck. Bit of a historical area for him set up in the pub. And nice beer down there as well. They've also got this weird Lake Ayr Yacht Club. A couple of old boats lying around, and they are open for beers at certain times, but not all the time, folks. Bit of artwork around, and yeah, well worth a little visit on your way through to the Unadata track. First morning, got out of bed, had a look around the van, and I thought I was screwed. Got out the pliers and pulled it out, and luckily I wasn't screwed. It was, yeah, only in a mill or two. Thank bloody Christ for that. It's pretty important to look after yourself on these trips. Make sure you're prepared, vehicle's prepared, got plenty of water, plenty of fuel. Make sure your tyres are at the right pressure. Ours were down just a little tiny bit, and that was sufficient for us. It handled well. The roads are pretty rough out there, and it can get pretty warm at times. Whatever you do, don't drive on them in the wet. First stop for us was Lake Ayr South viewing area. Well worth stopping off at. My shots are from the drone. Just gives a bit of a different perspective, but it's well worth stopping off at, and you can still see the lake from the viewing platform. It's only just off the Unadata track, and there's a good information area about. It tells you all about the Great Artesian Basin and some good information there for travellers passing through. So then we got back onto the track. A little bit further up the track, we came upon the, I don't know how to say it, Mutonia Sculpture Park. It's a bit eclectic, a bit weird, but hey, something to see whilst you're travelling down the track. It's a few sculptures, and that's about all.
What a spot! An oasis in the middle of the Unadata track. Showers, toilets, fire pit. Bring it on.
Yeah, that he was a bit excited about that camp spot, Coward Springs. It's set in amongst an old date farm. Our original dates were planted by the old Afghan camel herders, and now they've got the date farm happening, and they're selling date ice cream and date covered in chocolates, and as well as all the history that goes on with the place. They've got a little museum there, and tells you all about the joint. They've even got a hot springs for me to jump into. Back on the road again, and you'll see some of the road conditions. It varies from stony stuff like you see here, very stony, very corrugated, all the way through to hard clay patches that can be a little bit slippery. Even in the dry, they can be that shiny that they can be a little bit slippery. There were some damp areas on our trip through, and you'll always have to keep your eye open for these guys heading off in the distance. We were lucky we passed this guy in a nice wide section, but you've got to give them plenty of room. But, from here on through, we're on our way to William Creek. We arrived in William Creek and set ourselves up at the campsite. It's not a bad site, dusty, but pretty well. For what it is out there, it's pretty good. And then, of course, we headed across to the William Creek pub. We'd heard that the meals were pretty good there, and we'd met a couple the night before on the road at Coward Springs. So had a few drinks, had a few game of cards, and nice meal. And then it was back down to the campsite for sunset, because we had to be up early and on a flight the next morning, because we were flying over Lake Ayr. Impressive sight. You have to go there. It's one of those places that you have to go in Australia to see Lake Ayr. It's the lowest point in Australia, and we've both been to the highest point in Australia, so it seems only fitting we should go to the lowest. You can see the clouds reflecting on the water there the day we were there. The water wasn't that deep, but it's never going to get too deep on Lake Eyre. But it's spectacular, spectacular even so. It was well worth a visit. After the flight, we didn't hang around in William Creek. We went and got ready and headed out towards Oodnadatta. It wasn't that bad. It was only about a 2.5 hour drive, they said, but it took us a bit longer than that. We had to top up with fuel first, and at $2.99 a litre, I was pretty happy. I had some jerry cans in the back of the van ready to help me out in that regard. Again, like I said before, check the conditions of the track before you get out there. This section was pretty slippery. You can see the clay. It's even dry, it was pretty slippery. But yeah, when you see that where I was in, it was very corrugated, and then move across to the clay part, wherever it else has been, it was quite slippery. But still, a great drive. You follow the old Garn Railway all the way along. You see the old sleepers, the old bridges. It's a wonderful track to do. It really is a good spot. One of the old bridges, and I can't say it, so you have a go at it. Built in 1892, was the longest bridge in South Australia up until 2012, and that's when it was beaten. But built in South Australia, yeah, pretty impressive to think it was 1892 and it's still standing.
Look at all the flies around here. On the Oodnadatta track.
Well, we pulled into Oodnadatta yesterday, and it was State of Origin night, so we weren't in any fit state to make a video. But this is the roadhouse, the Pink Roadhouse, the famous Pink Roadhouse, and then when you spin around down the other end of town there, you will find there's a Transcontinental Hotel. Only been open a couple of months. It was shut for 5 years because somebody rode a car into it apparently, and it had to be all redone. Well, the owners of the Roadhouse owned the pub, and they finally got up and running. So yeah, the Pink Roadhouse. Road conditions, well, it was pretty good actually. Maree through to Howard Springs was, I'd say, pretty shit. Lots of big corrugations, not too many ruts or anything. Howard Springs through to William Creek, it was pretty good. Again, corrugations, but not so bad. And then the last section from William Creek through to Oodnadatta, that's a 200k section. It was, yeah, pretty rutted. It was all clay pans and that, but it was solid, and the corrugations weren't as bad. But there's the girl sitting over there, waiting for me to come and get her and go and buy a t-shirt. Got to get a t-shirt from the old Oodnadatta Pink Roadhouse. Have to do that. Alright, I'll put a few photos up and we'll introduce you to Oodnadatta. There's not a lot at Oodnadatta, as you would expect. You've got the famous Pink Roadhouse. Everything from milkshakes through to bar of soap out there. It's pretty cool the way it's set up inside, and there's a campground at the back of it. Campground's pretty good. The facilities are really good. Pub's great. A good spot for a beer on the State of Origin night like we did. And yeah, it was good. Very, very good. The owner of the pub, he's got an old Land Rover. He calls it the Oodna Uber, and he ferries people around town. Just a bit of fun, I think. Really, I don't think he charges anybody. But yeah. Get yourself up there, get yourself down there, whichever way you're coming. It's worth the visit. The road, yeah. Look, just take it as it is. It's not hard. You just drive the conditions, and you should be all good. But yeah, take my advice. Have a go at it. Well, if you've enjoyed that episode, our next one coming up is the Unadata through to Cooper Pedy via the Painted Desert and Arkaringa. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. It's a little bit rougher than I found it a little bit rougher than the Unadata track itself, but again, all worthwhile. And if you can't do it, just jump on, have a look at our episode. We camp out at Arkaringa, and we get to see our first Sturt Desert piece. So join us on that one, and we'll let you know when it's out. Just hit that subscribe button.